Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. Never chase a man. Don't run behind somebody who isn't running behind you. Because the moment you start chasing, you start lowering your value, shrinking your power, and dimming your own light just to make somebody else comfortable. And that, right there, is how people lose themselves. Valuing yourself first is the foundation of every healthy relationship you will ever have. And it begins long before a man enters the picture. Too many women fall in the trap of thinking that love requires sacrifice to the point of self-neglect, or that giving more guarantees receiving more. In reality, the opposite is true. A woman who knows her worth doesn't have to fight for attention, affection, or commitment. She radiates a certain confidence that naturally attracts the right kind of man and repels the wrong one. When you recognize your value, you move differently. You set boundaries not from fear, but from clarity. You don't accept inconsistency, disrespect, or emotional crumbs, because you understand that the right man will meet you with the same energy you give yourself. Knowing your worth means treating yourself with the same respect and kindness you expect from others. It's in the way you speak to yourself, the way you invest in your goals, the way you handle your emotions, and the way you protect your peace. Men notice this. They pay attention to how you carry yourself. When a woman values herself, she doesn't lean in too far. She doesn't overextend. She doesn't mold herself to fit the expectations of someone who hasn't earned that privilege. She stands firm in who she is, and that strength becomes magnetic. Men admire confidence, not because it intimidates them, but because it creates a sense of challenge and respect. When you value yourself, you don't fear being alone. You understand that solitude is better than settling. You understand that your life doesn't pause while you wait for a man to make decisions about you. This inspires a man to step up. A man who sees a woman grounded in her worth understands that if he doesn't show up with sincerity, effort, and consistency, she will continue her life without missing a beat. That awareness motivates him to rise, not because she demanded it, but because she inspired it. Valuing yourself also means staying true to your standards. Standards aren't walls, they're filters. They separate those who genuinely appreciate you from those who only want to take advantage of your softness. A woman who knows her worth doesn't get angry when someone fails to meet her standards. She simply recognizes they aren't the right fit. That calm, assured mindset is what makes a man reconsider his behavior. It forces him to look inward and evaluate whether he's doing enough to be the kind of partner she deserves. When you value yourself, you send a clear message: I am not here to chase. I am here to be chosen. You create a space where a man knows he must come correct. You encourage him to be intentional, to communicate clearly, and to show consistent effort, because he understands that your presence in his life is something he has to honor. That's the power of knowing your worth. When you hold yourself to a higher standard, the right man naturally follows. Setting standards instead of traps is one of the most powerful things a woman can do when it comes to influencing how a man shows up in her life. A trap is when you try to manipulate a reaction, chase validation, or force someone into giving you what you want. Standards, on the other hand, are simply the expectations you live by. Expectations that reflect your self-respect, your values, and your emotional needs. When a woman relies on traps, she wastes energy trying to pull effort out of a man who may not be ready or willing to give it. But when she sets standards and stands firmly behind them, she naturally filters out the men who aren't aligned with her. A man who truly cares and truly sees her value will rise to meet those standards without her ever having to push, beg, or force. A standard is not a demand. It is not a threat. It is simply a clear understanding of what you will and will not tolerate. Men respect clarity. They may not always understand hints, mixed messages, or emotional tests, but they understand a woman who is direct and honest about what she expects in a relationship. And a woman with standards doesn't just verbalize them, she embodies them. She practices self-discipline. She stays consistent. She doesn't lower the bar because she likes someone a little too much. She doesn't make excuses for inconsistency, disrespect, or neglect. Instead, she maintains her emotional posture and lets a man show, through his actions, whether he is aligned with what she requires. When you set standards, you create a dynamic where a man is invited to step up, not pressured. Men don't respond well to pressure, but they respond remarkably well to purpose. When a man sees that the woman he wants has clear expectations, he feels challenged in a healthy way. It activates his desire to prove himself, to demonstrate effort, and to rise to the occasion. Not because she cornered him into doing so, but because he wants to earn his place by her side. Standards give a man something to work toward. Traps push him away. A woman who sets standards understands her emotional worth. She knows that she can't control a man's behavior, but she can control her access and her time. She knows that boundaries protect her peace. She knows that she doesn't have to convince a grown man to be consistent, loyal, respectful, or emotionally present. Those traits come naturally to a man who is serious about her. A man who cannot or will not meet her standards disqualifies himself without her needing to raise her voice or argue. Her calm, steady commitment to her values speaks louder than any confrontation could. Men often shift their behavior when they realize the woman they want is not impressed by empty promises or temporary effort. Standards teach him silently that if he wants to stay, he must step into the best version of himself. And the beauty of standards is that they don't force a man to change. They reveal the man who is willing to. Your energy teaches people how to treat you. And this simple truth holds more power than most people realize. The way you carry yourself, the tone you use, the boundaries you set, and the confidence you project all communicate something long before you ever open your mouth. You don't have to tell a man what you expect when your energy already expresses it for you. People, including men, adjust their behavior based on the signals you give them. If your energy says you'll settle, you'll tolerate disrespect, or you'll continue showing up even when someone gives you the bare minimum, that's exactly how you will be treated. But when your energy says you value yourself, you prioritize your peace, and you won't stay where you are undervalued, everything around you shifts. A woman who understands the power of her energy doesn't chase validation from anyone. She speaks with certainty because she knows her worth. She doesn't need to over-explain, justify her boundaries, or debate her right to be treated well. Her presence commands respect because she respects herself first. Men are naturally drawn to women with this kind of energy because it feels stable, grounded, and purposeful. It creates an environment where a man feels he must bring his best self forward. Not because she demanded it, but because it feels like the only appropriate response to the way she carries herself. When your energy is rooted in insecurity or fear of abandonment, a man senses that too, not yet met. People can feel when you're desperate for affection or clinging to someone out of fear of being alone. This often leads to situations where a man puts in the smallest amount of effort possible, knowing you will still be there. That's why shifting your energy isn't about pretending or playing games. It's about genuinely becoming the kind of person who doesn't need to be chosen in order to feel valuable. When your confidence is real, it guides how others approach you. It tells them what they can and cannot get away with. Your energy also influences the emotional tone of your relationships. When you approach love from a place of fullness instead of lack, you stop expecting someone else to complete you. That emotional independence allows a man to relax, to show up without feeling pressured, and to be more intentional about his actions. A woman who knows she is whole invites a healthier dynamic, where both partners choose each other from strength, not fear. A man can sense the difference between a woman who loves herself and one who is hoping he will fill the void, and he behaves accordingly. When a woman centers her energy on growth, peace, and self-respect, she naturally inspires a man to elevate himself. He becomes more thoughtful, more present, and more consistent. Not because she nagged him into it, but because her anything less feel out of place. Your interactions become a reflection of the frequency you operate from. And when your energy is strong, steady, and aligned with your worth, the right man will match it effortlessly. Distance creates clarity, and this is something many people underestimate when it comes to relationships and emotional connections. When you step back, not out of anger, not as a game, but as an act of self-respect, you give both yourself and the man you care about the space to truly see what matters. Distance is not about punishment. It is about perspective. When you are always available, always accessible, always present no matter how you are treated, a man can become comfortable, even complacent, without realizing the value of what he has. Human nature often makes us appreciate things more when we recognize they are not guaranteed. Distance allows that recognition to happen naturally. When a woman creates space, it does something powerful. It allows the man to feel her absence, not just notice it. Feeling absence is different from hearing complaints or arguments. Complaints can be ignored, brushed aside, or met with defensiveness. But absence is silent, and silence has a way of echoing in a man's mind. When he no longer has immediate access to her attention, her energy, her kindness, or her support, he begins to evaluate what those things meant to him. He starts to think about her presence, her voice, her laughter, and her influence on his life. Distance creates room for realization, and realization is what leads to change. Creating distance does not mean cutting someone off abruptly or playing hard to get. It means redirecting energy back to yourself. It means focusing on your own goals, your own growth, and your own happiness without waiting for a man to catch up. When you give yourself that emotional breathing room, you regain your clarity. You begin to see the relationship for what it truly is, not for what you hoped it would be. Distance removes the noise, the confusion, and the emotional fog that often clouds judgment. You begin to understand your true emotional needs and whether they are being met. For the man, that same distance creates an opportunity for him to understand his own intentions. Without your constant presence, he becomes more aware of his feelings. He may start asking himself questions. Does he miss you? Does he value what you brought into his life? Was he giving the relationship the effort it deserved? Distance encourages him to look inward, to confront his own behavior, and to acknowledge where he fell short. When a man genuinely cares, space motivates him to step up because he realizes that losing you is a real possibility. The beauty of distance is that it reveals truth. If a man is invested, the space will push him to pursue you with clarity, intention, and consistency. If he is indifferent, the space will expose that too, and you will have protected yourself from further emotional disappointment. Either way, distance serves you. It becomes a tool for understanding, healing, and empowerment. And for a man who truly values you, that distance becomes the spark that drives him to change, to grow, and to show up in a way he should have from the beginning. A queen doesn't chase. She chooses who is allowed in her life, and this mindset changes everything about how she moves, how she loves, and how she carries herself. When a woman understands her worth at a deep level, she stops viewing relationships as something she has to earn through effort, sacrifice, or proving herself. Instead, she recognizes that her presence is a privilege, not a gift automatically granted to anyone who shows her attention. A queen knows that not everyone deserves access to her heart, her time, or her energy, and this understanding shapes the way people respond to her. When you carry yourself like someone who is selective, intentional, and self-respecting, a man approaches you with more care, more intention, and more seriousness because he feels the significance of being chosen by you. Men can sense the difference between a woman who is seeking approval and a woman who understands she is the prize. A woman who chases gives off an energy of scarcity, an energy that says she believes love is limited and that she must cling to whoever gives her a little bit of attention. But a queen operates from abundance. She knows there are many men in the world, but only a select few will be worthy of her emotional investment. She moves slowly, observes carefully, and chooses thoughtfully. That energy alone makes a man step up. When he realizes he isn't the only option, but that he has the privilege of being considered, he naturally becomes more intentional about the way he treats her. Choosing instead of chasing requires emotional discipline. It means staying patient instead of rushing into someone's arms just because you don't want to be alone. It means paying attention to a man's consistency rather than being distracted by his charm. It means you don't elevate a man to king status just because he shows interest. He must prove through his actions that he deserves a place in your world. When a man sees that you don't give your loyalty lightly, he understands that he must earn the right to be in your life. He becomes more thoughtful, more present, and more reliable because he knows you are the type of woman who will not settle for half-hearted effort. A queen also understands that love should be mutual, balanced, and reciprocal. She doesn't pour into a man who leaves her empty. She doesn't invest in potential for months or years hoping someone will change. She doesn't hold on to someone who shows her inconsistent behavior. Instead, she assesses whether his actions align with his words. If they don't, she keeps moving, not out of coldness, but out of respect for herself. This ability to walk away is what commands respect. A man pays special attention to a woman who is not afraid to lose him, because she knows she will always have herself. What many don't realize is that this mindset doesn't push men away. It draws the right ones closer. When a man encounters a woman who carries herself like a queen, he understands that he must bring integrity, effort, and emotional maturity. He realizes that she will not chase after him. So if he wants her, he must rise to the level of the standards she has set. And for a man who truly values her, that realization becomes the motivation to give her the best version of himself, because he knows she will only choose a man who treats her with the honor she deserves. When you focus on your own growth, the right man changes on his own. This is one of the most powerful principles in relationships, yet it is often overlooked. Too many women expend endless energy trying to change a man, convince her to act differently, or force him to prioritize them. The truth is that transformation can't be imposed from the outside. People evolve naturally when they feel inspired, challenged, and respected. A woman who invests in herself, develops her talents, pursues her dreams, and nurtures her emotional and mental health creates an environment where the right man doesn't have to be coerced into becoming better. He wants to because he recognizes the value of the woman he is with and the life she is building. Focusing on your growth sends a clear, silent message that you are not dependent on anyone else for your happiness, fulfillment, or identity, and that alone is transformational. Personal growth is multifaceted. It includes emotional intelligence, self-awareness, financial stability, physical health, and spiritual or intellectual development. When a woman dedicates time and effort to becoming the best version of herself, it radiates in every aspect of her life. Her confidence, resilience, and clarity become contagious. A man sees that she is whole, capable, and unafraid to stand on her own, and that realization sparks change. He begins to reflect on his own life, his own behaviors, and the ways in which he contributes or fails to contribute to the relationship. When he witnesses a woman growing, evolving, and thriving, he is naturally inspired to grow as well. He doesn't want to be left behind. He wants to rise to her level so that he can be the kind of partner she deserves. Growth also shifts the dynamics of attention and desire. When a woman is focused on her passions, her purpose, and her happiness, she becomes less available for constant pursuit. This absence is not manipulative. It is simply a reflection of a life that is full on its own terms. A man notices this and begins to take the relationship more seriously because he realizes she has options both in life and in love. She is no longer defined by his actions, but by her own achievements, her own joy, and her own path. That shift creates space for him to evaluate his priorities and make the necessary changes to align with the standards she embodies. Focusing on growth also helps a woman cultivate patience and discernment. When she is busy building her life, she is less likely to tolerate inconsistency, disrespect, or half-hearted effort. She learns to recognize who is genuinely committed and who is not, and she invests her energy accordingly. This clarity is powerful because it allows a man to either step up or step aside. He understands that if he wants to remain part of her life, he must contribute positively, consistently, and intentionally. The right man doesn't need to be coerced. Her presence and her growth naturally encourage him to evolve. Furthermore, growth strengthens emotional boundaries. A woman who is developing herself emotionally and mentally knows what she will and will not accept. She does not point to someone out of fear, need, or insecurity. She communicates clearly, acts decisively, and lives authentically. A man who cares and respects her sees this and responds accordingly. He realizes that she is not someone to be taken for granted, and that realization inspires him to be more present, more consistent, and more invested in the relationship. Ultimately, when a woman focuses on her own growth, she creates a magnetic force. The right man cannot help but rise to meet her because he is inspired, challenged, and awakened by her energy, her confidence, and her self-respect. Growth becomes the silent catalyst for change, and the transformation in the man is a natural reflection of the woman she has become.